So we're gonna start this whittling project with a piece of wood that's about 1 times 1 inches thick, so about 2.5 times 2.5-ish centimeters. And the length doesn't matter that much, as long as you can comfortably hold on to it and you still have about 10-ish centimeters or 4 inches for the actual whale. You also need a knife, but no other tools are required. Start this project by making a line like this, and then we carve off these edges over here. I'm using European aspen here. As you can see, it's very soft and easy to carve, but there are plenty of other options too, like basswood. That at least is very easily available online. Alright, that's good. Then we're gonna make a simple drawing on the bottom. Something like that. Then the fins over here. And then the tail. The next thing is we make a couple stop cuts. So we press the blade into the wood like that. Take a little bit of wood off of here. The same on the other side. Be careful not to chip these parts. I made a little bit of a mistake, which meant I had to take a little bit of this wood off and make a new drawing. Alright, that's good enough for now. Then we're gonna make this part curve that way and this part curve that way. So basically something like this. So we can make some rough cuts like this. That's pretty good. And the same on the other side. Here I'm making sweeping cuts because I want to keep this part so that I can hold on to it. So sweeping cuts like this. And you get basically the same result. That's good. Now we can make this head pointy, like that, like we had in the very first drawing. We're gonna have to redo these drawings a little bit, but they're very rough sketches, so it doesn't matter that much. So here, just a few rough cuts like that. Like that. Next we're gonna cut a tiny little back fin over here, so about halfway between where the tail starts and where the fins are going to end. There's gonna be this back fin, and that is just a stop cut like this, a very small stop cut. Next we're gonna make all of this a little bit more smooth, so we can take this sharp edge off. Like that, make it a little rounder. Then we can also create a slight curvature over here. And we can smoothen these edges also a little bit. We want to keep these two flat surfaces here. So we can try to make them a little bit more symmetrical. We can take this down a little bit if needed. But we're not going to make this round like the bottom. We're going to leave it so that there's an angle on the top. We're also going to create just a slight little curve here. Something like that. Now before we go into any finer details over here, we can reveal the fins a little better. So we can remove some of this wood here from behind the fins with a few sweeping cuts like this. Then some V-cuts on top of the fins. Then some more V-cuts, but this time underneath the fins here. Now we can also make this edge a little bit rounder. Here on the front of the fins, we can create a tiny distinction between the fin and the body. Same on the other side. Just a few little sweeping cuts like these will get the job done. Then we can create a curvature here too. And at the same time we're making this back a little bit rounder. That's pretty good. Now we can already start making some finishing touches on the fins, because they're very close to being done. So you gotta make careful little V-cuts over here to reveal a little bit more of that separation between the fin and the body. We can also make these fins a little bit thinner from the underside here with just a few sweeping cuts like this. It works the same way on both sides, except that one side is made with this push cut version of the sweeping cut, and one side is made with this pairing cut version of the sweeping cut. While trying to match these fins to be symmetrical, you also need to make some adjustments on the body itself. So like for example over here, this fin doesn't point as much outward as this one. So I'm gonna remove some wood from here to make it match better. Now we can work on the tail a little bit. So all the remaining cuts are going to be so small that we're not gonna need this handle anymore, which means that we can make this tail flat like it's supposed to be. So I'm making these sweeping cuts from above and from below. Now in my case at least, this fin is slightly too much back, so I can take a little bit off of this. I can also emphasize the shape of the tail a little bit. This part is gonna be a lot thinner, so I can make these V-cuts over here on both sides. Now at this point it's mostly just about creating symmetry. So if you have weird dents and bumps that don't belong in the shape, now is a good time to fix those, and then we still have a couple tiny details left. These very shallow push cuts are useful for creating a smoother surface like this. It works the same way to the other direction also. I haven't come across any name for this cut, but it could be like reverse push cut, since I'm pushing with the thumb of my non-dominant hand for support, and then I'm just twisting my wrist to create the movement for the blade. And since this hand is here for support, it's not going to slip anywhere. Now it's time to carve the tail. So we're just going to make something like that. And now that this is very thin already, we don't want to put a lot of pressure here. So the safest way to make this is just to make these rough cuts so that you don't have to twist this too much. These two corners can be made like this, so that they curve a little bit upward. Then we can make a few sweeping cuts here on both sides of the tail, so that also on the upper part there's a little bit of this very slight curve like this. Now that this tail is very thin, we can make these very small and careful stop cuts in order to create this line on the back of the tail. Just a couple final details left. One of them is the mouth, and it's gonna be a line like this. And the first thing we need to do is to make sure that it's symmetrical. It's pretty good. And then we can make this by creating a very small V-cut with the tip of the blade. Some of you might remember this little trick from some of my earlier videos, but we can make the eyes by just having a stick, something that's a little bit of a harder wood, and then we can just press and twist with the stick to create the eye. like that. And then you just gotta make sure that it's in the right place on the other side too. A couple more tiny details. I'm gonna make just a couple sweeping cuts like this. And now right here we have the place for the blowholes. Like that. And like that.